The story goes back to the days when Rudi was alive and working on his understanding of what he called his tantric work. I was the only person Rudi ever worked with on this topic of his tantric work, which was where he was going. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Rudi is talking about in his tantric work is the need to reach beyond ourselves into the atmosphere, to begin to make ourselves, to attract and make ourselves available to higher and finer energies than exist on and of the earth, to work on and work with us in continuing to develop ourselves. You know, another dimension of Rudi's tantric work was, you know, the awareness of and management of the energies of our past life relationships, that as we rise out of the envelope that we have been encased in being born into this world, the envelope of the disappointments and tensions of our ancestors. You know, as we, in doing the core practice of, you know, that Rudi was transmitting, as we work ourselves out of that envelope, almost as we work ourselves out of the placenta that we were born in, you know, then we begin to have a conscious birth, or rebirth, as Rudi would put it. Then there is the need we will start to attract into our lives, you know, we will start to experience the energies of relationships that we have, you know, been connected in for millennia. And dealing with those energies is, you know, a special other earthly experience that cannot be confined to the normal way in which people think about relationships. Past life relationships are not something that we can try to you know, encase in a territorial kind of hormonal, you know, circumstance that continues to build structure. You know, past life relationships are actually about dissolving structure and reaching beyond the limitations of time and space into the very essential energetic underpinnings of our own existence in order to, you know, liberate ourselves from tension, and also to begin to have the space in which our deepest creative abilities can be expressed.
And when you say past life relationships, are you talking about the same thing as when you're talking about disappointments of our ancestors?
Sometimes.
And sometimes.
The two things go together, for sure. But what we're saying is, as you rise above the tensions, then there begins to be a flow. You know, the flow of these past life relationships becomes exposed or revealed, and then sustaining that flow and growing it becomes a part of our daily practice, which we need to understand, acknowledge, pay attention to.
And the past life relationships and that practice or belief system was what Rudi was working on and what you're calling tantric practice, or are those different as well?
It's a part of it.
Part of it.
Just like I said 2 minutes ago.
Okay.
A part of it is his talking about past life relationships. There's some references in his quotes to that situation.
Okay.
And, he gave some talks about it too. That's one part of it. Another part, and the more sort of specifically tantric part, is working with energies and conscious energies, which could also be called conscious entities, which could also be called spirits. Working with, but in the tantric literature, they're called siddhis. And there are several classes of siddhis that go from ghosts to goddesses in a hierarchical fashion. Working with these spirit energies is also one of the main features of Rudi's tantric work. This is, something that he was totally clear about. In fact, in the last trip Rudi went to India, he kind of developed a fusion. He experienced a kind of fusion with a very powerful spirit, which, he merged with, and that spirit's face would come out of Rudi's forehead sometimes.
When was his last trip to India?
In September of 1972.
Ah, okay.
So then, of course, it was up to me to resurrect, to sort of, I felt anyway, it was up to me, and I felt Rudi was encouraging me to complete or to sort out what he was saying about tantric work. If nothing else, it was where I was in working with him, and I wanted to go on and develop my own self in that arena. So whether Rudi wanted me to or not was irrelevant to me. It was something that was in my path, and I just felt I had to do. So I did work on that, and I felt it was just a humongous work and a huge burden. And because Rudi was so sort of new in expressing that, had certainly transmitted the energy of it to me, but was new in expressing the whole, like developing the language of it and developing the methodology. And I'm sure it would have taken him years to complete. And, and I'm amazed that he got as far as he did just working from his own, inner practice. But then again, he had a very powerful, direct personal contact with Nityananda, which makes everything possible. Working in the same vein, in 1978, Swami Muktananda told me to study Shaivism. And doing so, I felt this great relief, because I saw that what Rudi was calling his tantric work had already been worked out by other people in different cultures, using a different language, which was not very accessible, and in a different cultural milieu, which also sort of complicates understanding what was really going on, but and having it be secret, which was the third difficulty. I was still greatly relieved to see that I didn't really have to reinvent the wheel, and it was all laid out in front of me if I could just decode it. So I have spent lots of years working with, Shaiva, Shakta tantrics, and Buddhist tantrics, and village tantrics, and
Oxford scholars.
Sorting out, and some Indian scholars, sorting out exactly what's going on there. Sometimes, better than, at least from a practitioner's point of view, sorting out what's going on in the tantric literature better than the scholars can sort out, because they have their own limitations and constraints about, they're not really interested in practice.